Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock on Thursday, and you know what that means? It's time for an episode of Look Around the Confederation. Normally, Moose and Candyman are here, but they both have prior engagements and couldn't be on. However, we do have our little plastic moose with us, so that's kind of like having the same thing. Before we get started, the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, its GEC, any division, brigade, camp, or other subsidiaries, strictly those of us who are expressing them.
I see you did.
Exactly. So good evening, everybody. I haven't seen anybody put any comments in, but we'll say hey as y'all pop up. But we, of course, have the man, the myth, and the original legend, Paul Gramling Jr., damn it.
Good evening, George Connor Bond.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. You know, I saw where Moose and Candyman couldn't make it, so they brought in their A team tonight.
They really did. You know, sometimes, you know, you got to let your second string quarterback and all them rest, even if the score's up.
Howdy, Chuck.
Yeah, the Lone Ranger Chuck Michael's in. Casey, good evening. Cousin Vinny. Remember, Vinny, we have the new rule, no veganism. Oh, with the bourbon whip. Good job, Vinny.
Well, let me, real quick, I've already thanked him, but I want to thank Vinny for the birthday card I got the other day.
Oh, Vinny.
It was very nice. It was a cool card, too.
We actually, the time, I'll go ahead and brag on Vinny. The only piece of fan mail that we know that we have gotten up at headquarters was from Vinny.
Very nice.
Vinny sent a piece of fan mail, and I think Matt's got it framed on his desk, and we all got pictures of it. So, anyway, well, I don't have any news to cover. So I'm guessing that Matt and Moose will do that next week. Only thing I can say to remind everybody is to continue to send your news in to scvyouthoutreach@gmail.com to be featured on the show. Go ahead and put that down there at the bottom. And remember, we have a couple spots available on the red carpet premiere of the Nathan Bedford Forrest documentary. I'll be there. I won't be the best dressed, but I'll be there. I already know who the best dressed couple will be, and that'll be Miss Linda and Mr. Paul, of course.
I can't imagine.
Well, I can imagine.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
I just wonder if you're going to wear your red shoes.
I have not decided yet. I'm either going to wear my red shoes or I got some black and white shoes. I've not decided yet.
I personally hope for the red.
It depends on what vest I wear.
Well, that you have to accessorize correctly.
I have a silver gray vest I could wear with my black and white shoes, or I have a red colored vest that I could probably wear with my red shoes. I don't know yet. I am wearing a battle flag bow tie though.
I'll be wearing my Robert E. Lee definition of a gentleman with my tails.
And I will have a gentleman. I had it there on Friday at the reinterment. A gentleman's walking cane that once belonged to Ron Castile.
It was a pretty cool cane.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, I knew you and Ron were close, and if anybody's never seen them, I think they're still on YouTube. The recruiting videos he did.
Excellent video.
Excellent videos. Y'all need to go see that. Chuck McMichael suggests that you wear one of each.
That would be different. I don't know if I could even go that far.
I think that it would definitely
be like Two-Face.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, so as the legend, before we get started, I will say I was going through some of my old Confederate veterans, or actually they were Dad's Confederate Veterans magazines, because they were published before I was a member, and I was reading an article by one of our former chief of Heritage Defense before it was Heritage Operations.
2004 to 2006.
Yeah. Well, and then there was another. Well, Yeah, I guess I guess that was in between that time. But yeah, I was looking at it and I said, hey, I know that man. But for those that don't know, Paul is he's a wealth of information on our organization, and we're really blessed that he's still with us and that he's still active. And he has some stuff he wants to talk about our glorious past. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you, boss man.
Well, okay, we're dating back to 1996, 26 years ago. I'd been a member about 5 years. And the first one we're going to talk about, and I believe we got a couple of pictures there, that is a parade in Richmond, Virginia, the Sunday after our Centennial Convention reunion in Richmond, Virginia in 96. We had a parade down Monument Avenue, and we ended at the Lee statue, the Lee Monument there, where the newly elected Commander in Chief Pete Orderbeck addressed the crowd. So that is what those two pictures are. That was my first reunion, national reunion, and I have made every one since then. That was a special day, as you can see. There was hundreds of people there, and it was the climax of our Centennial Convention. That's me in the middle, marching there, and so that was a special day, a special time for us. Like I said, myself, Chuck and Michael, a few others in our camp. That was our first national reunion, and it was a very lively one to say the least. So, but anyway, I wanted to start off with that one, kick off with that one for the going back in time segment for us tonight. So
That's a
that will
great
be
turnout there.
yeah. So one of those pictures, and I've got other pictures which shows more of the statue, the monument, but kind of one of those things that, especially in our day and age and our today, where everything's been taken down, that we used to be a presence there, big time. But anyway, I wanted to start off with that one. So the next one will be the rally we had in Columbia, South Carolina, January uh, 2000. That's me up front with Linda and the Louisiana Division behind me. At that time, I was Louisiana Division commander. So we had marched. It was a few miles from the cemetery the staging area, and we marched to the Capitol there in Columbia. There's another picture of us marching. There were estimated 12,000 people there, and as you can see, we have, except maybe the Hunley Funeral, we have never had a showing of this magnitude since then. That day was awesome. It was actually, this is one of those things. I know in the Louisiana Division had we chartered two buses and we drove all night on January 7th to get there January 8th, that morning of January 8th. We drove to the cemetery, we disembarked, got in line, and jumped in the parade. We marched in the parade, was there for all the speechifying. Fine. Commander in Chief Rick Griffin gave the keynote speech, and we got from back on the buses there. They fed us yellow barbecue. I'm not going to say any more about it. I'm going to leave it right there for the barbecue. But anyway, they fed us. We got back on the bus and got back late that night in Monroe, Louisiana. But it was one heck of a trip. Never forget that the size of and how many people were there. It was awesome. It was just something. It was something to behold. So there's another picture of Louisiana Division delegation posed for a picture. But anyway, that's
Now, really quick, is that when they were trying to take the flag off the dome?
that was when they was trying to take the flag off the dome. And I'm not going to get into the negative remark things that happened since then or after then. All I can say is we made a good showing, and it's I thought it was uh, odd, but not anything we're not used to. But a week after that, the NAACP had a rally there, and they had about as many people at their rally. Now, when the news reported our event, they said we had about 6,000 people. The next weekend at their rally, they reported they had about 40,000 people. Same, you can see in the pictures, same amount of people, but it's just all in the way the media was reporting it. So, we estimated about 12,000 of us there that day. It was a great event. Really, you know, enjoyed being there. I'm glad I was a part of it. Um, Next event is, and you may know something about this, Connor, is the
Mhm.
2001 Mississippi Flag Rally. This is when they were having the vote of the people whether or not to keep the flag, the state flag. And what's unusual about this particular rally. Now, I'm not going to cast any dispersions against anybody or former members of the GEC, but the GEC, there was only 3 members of the GEC at this time that voted to support this rally. And Chuck McMichael and myself were 2 of them. And I'm going to leave that there. But I was ATM commander at the time, and I fully supported this event. So a lot of us, as you can see there, me and Linda were there. So we definitely were supporting this rally, and a lot of us from Louisiana went across the river to help support it. And we all know the results of that election right after this rally. Um,
And we haven't had one since.
and you haven't had an election since with that, so or rally like that.
Nope.
Now
Yeah, not like
we've
that.
been at the Capitol a few times, but it's nothing. It's never been anything like that, you know. Um, but that's another thing that, and I included that on the national event because, like I said, there's 3 of us on the GEC that voted to support it, and 2 of us showed up. So anyway, that was the Mississippi, flag rally that happened in 2001. The next event was, a lot of people remember this that were around, and this was the march across Dixie. This was done by H.K. Edgerton and his brother Tommy Lee from Asheville. He marched from Asheville, North Carolina to Austin, Texas. He started out, I forgot exactly the exact date he started. It was 2002. It was sometime in the fall. He started marching about 20 miles a day, and he marched from Asheville, North Carolina to Austin, Texas. And a lot of our members and supporters would march with him along the way. Now, in the Terry Lee, as I said, Terry Lee is his brother's name. But when he got to Shreveport, not Shreveport, but he was in Louisiana in December of 02, Terry Lee had problems with his van, and they had to go back to North Carolina to get it fixed. This particular picture here was taken New Year's Day, 2003, early in the morning. Myself, my son Landon, Ben Head, and his son Aaron met them in Bossier City that morning, and we marched 20 miles with him. Along the way, our brother Donnie Kennedy caught up with us, and him and Betty marched with us for a while. But this was later on in the morning, and you had another picture of us there. We did have the news station come out and interview HK, and they interviewed me as far as, why was this black man marching with a Confederate battle flag that many, thousands of miles. And of course, HK told him exactly why he was doing it, and like I said, they interviewed me as well. That was very, I don't know, I was worn out by the time we got through. I think we actually went over 20 miles, but Terry Lee was supposed to have been taking charge. He was in charge of how many miles we marched. He said it was 20, so I'll go with him. But anyway, the day before, Chuck had marched with him up to in the Bossier, and like I said, he had a run in with the Bossier cops. They also had a run in with the Gramling Louisiana officers a few days before that. So he did catch a lot of flack uh, during this march, but he made it. Later on, after this, he made it to Austin. We went down to Austin and marched the last 5 miles with him into the Capitol. So it was a great experience. A few years ago, HK come up with I guess what you might call a coffee table book of his pictures through the whole march. Uh, I got a copy of it. It's a well done book with a lot of different ones that did march with him uh, through the different states that he passed through. It was a great testament of what one man or two men can do when they put their mind to it. Um, I know a lot of our members today have no idea HK did that. Uh, it was hard, of course, but anyway, it was a great experience, and I know HK made a lot of friends along the way, so and a lot of support. So anyway, I wanted to include that in the events that we've been associated with the past 20 something years because it was special. This is something the whole SCV organization was aware of, and they supported him in doing this as well. So I wanted to add that. The next event will be the Hunley Funeral in April of 2004. This is in Charleston. Some of the Louisiana Tigers delegation, color guard there at the staging area. And the next picture is kind of an overview of the numbers of people marching. This is like a 5 mile march, and it was hot for April. It was very hot. Thankfully, there was people along the way uh, giving us something to drink, giving us water to drink. But that was a very special day as well. Of course, when we got to the area where everything was taking place and the speechifying and all this, when we unfortunately was way in the back, and we didn't get a chance to see much. We could hear okay, but couldn't see very much. I know Chuck Rand was able to get close to the the graves where they were being buried. I did not get a picture of Chuck doing that, but there was one, I think in the magazine or something with him there. But that was a special and very moving ceremony when we buried those men from the Hunley. Um, I don't know if anyone got a number as far as how many were there, but there was several thousand of us there. And again, in South Carolina, we made a presence of who we are, and that this really means something to us. It's just not something that we do on a whim. No, this is who we are, and we made that statement that day as well. So, but that was a good day. Also, the next event will be the Sesquicentennial event there in Montgomery, Alabama. This was our first one, 2011, in February. This particular picture, I had the opportunity of being in charge of the reenactors at all 5 Sesquicentennial events. Some I was more active than not, but this was our first one. We had probably about 40 to 50 reenactors, in the Raffle Squad, and this particular picture was taken. Of course, I was doing one of the volleys, firing one of the volleys there during the ceremony, and I found out later this picture wound up in Stars and Stripes not long after this. So that was pretty special. But I always thought that was a real cool picture. To whoever took that picture, the photographer, they got it. It was an excellent shot there. But this was the first of our Sesquicentennial event, a few thousand people. Chuck said he heard there was 8. I heard there was 4, so I guess it's somewhere in between. I don't know for sure. But this particular event gave us high hopes for the Sesquicentennial time frame. It unfortunately we were not able to duplicate these numbers in the remaining events, but I'm not. It is what it is. I think it was a lost opportunity to really show some numbers on the remaining events, but those that did make the rest of them, they were good events, and we just worked with what we got. But this event, like I said, this was the first one. It was an excellent event. Chuck McMichael, past commander chief, he was in charge of all the Sesquicentennial events as far as putting together and the time frames and lining up speakers and that kind of thing. Chuck was the keynote speaker for this event. Done an excellent job as always, but done an excellent job. Other members of the GEC, voiced, had comments as well. So this, like I said, this was the first one. It was February, but it was very warm for February. I mean, it was almost hot for February, but it was pretty warm. But anyway, the next event was the Sesquicentennial event in Richmond, Virginia, February, and it was very cold that day. But we marched down Monument Avenue to the Lee Monument. There, past Commander in Chief Michael Givens, he was the keynote speaker. There was probably 400 to 500 people there. I wish it could have been more. It wasn't, but as you can see in this picture, there was enough of us around there to make a decent showing. And there we are marching down Monument Avenue with, and Chuck is in front. And you can see Michael Givens there in the middle. And you had the color guard. But anyway, that was us marching down Monument Avenue to the Lee statue. And like I said, Michael Givens was a keynote speaker to that as well. Now we had 2 more Sesquicentennial events. I don't have pictures for them, but 2013, we were at Biloxi, Mississippi at Beauvoir. We was doing a dedication of the new library there in March 2013. I think we had about 700-800 people there for that event. And then the next year in 2014, we were in Franklin, Tennessee. November. That wasn't November. It might have been a little earlier, maybe end of October. But in 2014, they had a Sesquicentennial event there in Franklin. Ben Jones, the person who played Cooter on the Dukes of Hazzard, he was a keynote speaker at that time. He was also our chief of heritage operations as well. So he was there and he was a keynote speaker for that event. And we probably had, I think we had maybe 200 to 300 people there. Could have been more, but like I said, we take what we can get and we try to use it to our advantage. The next year.
The one thing about the 2013 one was it was the first time in a while that Biloxi PD actually shut down Highway 90, so we could cross. We marched up the beach and crossed over into the main entrance there at Beauvoir.
Yes, they did.
So that was, I remember that. I was commanding the Mississippi delegation.
Right. There was quite a few of us in that procession, if you will, and marching. So it was a good day. Like I said, all these Sesquicentennial events, they were good days. I wish we could have had more of our people out there, more members, but like I said, it is what it is, and you make the best with what you got. So, but it was a good event. It was a good event in Franklin. There's not very many of us there. And to finish out the Sesquicentennial era, if you will, in April of 2015 in Shreveport, Louisiana, in my hometown. And it took place at the monument where the last Confederate flag flew over land. This is the color guard. Evan McMichael, Landon Gramling, and Ron Heck was our color guard. And it was a good day. It reminded me, the reinterment last September reminded me of this event because we were staged at a parking lot, probably about a mile away, and it was raining cats and dogs. I mean, it was raining hard. And we were waiting for it to slack up. And all of a sudden, about 5 to 10 minutes before we needed to line up, it stopped raining. We lined up, formed up, and marched out. And it was nice the rest of the day. Like I said, the reinterment kind of reminded me of this particular day because as hard as it was raining, and all of a sudden it just stopped. And we had a great day. So anyway, we marched down Texas Avenue. There we are, marching down Texas Avenue, headed to the courthouse with the color guard and the GEC, and then each division marching as they seceded. So I think that was a common theme on all these Sesquicentennial events, that the marching, the lineup was at each division as they seceded. So that's us marching down Texas Avenue. And the next picture, of course, is some of the crowd gathering around. As you can see, you and your dad, Chuck, there in the middle, were there. We probably had 400 to 500 people there. It was a good turnout. I would say this, and I'm just not saying this to make any disparaging remarks, but we had one member from the A&V that attended this national event, and that was the Reverend Dr. Herman White. He was the only one from the A&V that was able to make it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's J-Bo there as well.
Yeah, Jason was there as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jason was there.
Side behind the camera.
Yep. Jason was there. I had to go back. There was a member of our camp that made a coffee table book with the pictures, and I go back every once in a while and look, especially when I was commander in chief, and I met more people, in office, and I would go back and look at the book and see the pictures of people that were there that I know and had forgotten that they were there. But like I said, Herman was the only one from the A&V that was able to make it. It's a shame, but like I said, it is what it is. It was a good event, and unfortunately, since then, the powers to be in Caddo Parish have voted to remove that monument. They are in the process now of moving it as far as the contractor and the work being done. We do have a place for it. So it will be put up in a location that it will be honored. Not that it wasn't honored there, but I am getting to the point. We fight for these monuments in these cities when we can and do what we can to keep them there. But the more I see of the wickedness in these cities, I don't think a lot of them, I don't think they don't deserve to have these monuments. They don't deserve to be the watchers, caretakers of our monuments. So if we can find a suitable place and location in the local area that we can put them where we can take care of them and be honored, then that's what we got to do, And you're right, Ron. We need to move the powers that be. Definitely need to do that. But that Sesquicentennial event anyway. This particular monument will be put on land owned by the SCV. It is a UDC monument, but it will be put on land owned by the SCV. So it will be taken care of, and the land was donated by one of our members. Of course, there's another. When I was bringing greetings on behalf of the ATM, same event. And of course, Chuck there, he was our keynote speaker at that one as well. And excellent job. And he closed out our Sesquicentennial events with a bang, with a rousing, speech that he is so good at. So that was the Sesquicentennial events that we, involved with on the national level. Next event is the groundbreaking of the museum. This is October 2016. There you see the GEC for the most part, and some local politicians that at the time, at least those were in support of us in doing this. And like I said, this was an article that ran in the paper there in Columbia, Tennessee, the next day. That like I said, it shows us breaking ground to build our museum that we have now. All right. Next.
I'm looking in here. I'm just mystified at how young Jason looks. Daryl hasn't changed all that much.
I've got more gray hair.
I think Charles looks younger now than he does in that picture.
He's retired.
Ronnie Roach looks the same. I'm surprised that the photographer was able to take a picture with with Tom right there in the center, and it being a sunny day.
That's true. Well, I think the way he had his head tilted.
Yeah.
But you had the mayor there and some representatives there. It was a good day. I mean, of doing this and looking forward to the future. Unfortunately, we had some holdups as far as getting it built. We were hoping to have it, for the most part, built by the time Tom went out of office. It didn't happen due to problems with the rain and the weather and what have you. But fortunately, it was built the time I went out of office, and it's coming along, especially with the timeline that Jimmy Hill and Carl Jones have been working on, and others in that committee have been working on our timeline, and it's come along. I know some of you might have seen some of the pictures Carl posted just a few days ago when he was up there. A lot of additions being made as well as getting that timeline worked on. So hopefully before too long, all of that will be done and set up in the back part of the museum. Something to be proud of, though.
Yeah, really quickly, we were talking about this before stream, but I'll go ahead and tell everybody. You talked we had some hiccups getting the museum built or getting it started. We had some hiccups getting the service started. The guy who planned it had the Bonnie Blue flag, all 5 verses of it play. And when you're standing there, your hand over your heart, and you're figuring, okay, we're just gonna play, just like with Dixie, we're gonna play the first verse of the Star Spangled Banner. You play the first verse. No, all 5 verses of the Bonnie Blue flag. And it wasn't a vocalized one either. It was on a brass band, so it felt like just the song was on repeat. But it was a good day.
It was.
I actually cut my hand on McClooney's shovel loading it in. I just got in my car. And Larry and Annette and Joe Noakes ride with me, and I was trying to load the shovel into my car, and I cut it on the plaque, little plaque piece that's on the wooden handle. So I still have the scar somewhere.
Good deal. All right. We want to move on to the next event, which is Stone Mountain, Georgia, April 2019. This was an event that I declared a national memorial event. I'd only been to Stone Mountain once before, back in 1994, so it had been a while. But talking to Tim Pilgrim, the Georgia Division Commander, and what they was wanting to do, and plus you have to remember, you had a woman running for governor in Georgia, and she ran on the platform of sandblasting Stone Mountain, and of course we can't have that. But of course, she was defeated. But the scary part of that whole situation is that she got 48% of the vote. That was very scary to think that someone that wanted to campaign on eradicating history would get that much support for governor. So, talking to Commander Pilgrim, I told him that I would like to make this a national event that year and get as much support for it and put it on everybody's radar, if you will, what's going on. So we did. And from the count that I got, we had roughly 1,700 people there. Now, our security was tight. We went to a meeting the day before with some of the members of Metcalf, and their job that was security. I mean, that was something that they did professionally. So we had a meeting with them, and we were told what to expect and what to look out for, and that they would have key people with some of us, shadow some of us, because at that time you didn't know what to expect with the BLM and Antifa people. Somebody could be setting off somewhere with a sniper rifle and start picking people off. But we was going to do this anyway. I was happy when I found out that we only had 2 young men that were kind of agitators, and there was an older man with them that was kind of pushing them, egging them on, if you will. But they was trying to cause some problems, and the security, which was pretty much Metcalf, escorted them off the premises without incident, and that was the only problem we had. And like I said, that wasn't a real big problem because I didn't know about it till after the fact. So it was a great event. It was we had, you can see there, we had a lot of key people there bringing greetings and saying a few words. Uh, Unfortunately, the next year you had COVID hit, and we wasn't able to go like this. And I would love to be able to go this year, but I've got a prior commitment on April 30th, which when they're having it this time, which is next Saturday, a week from Saturday. So that was a good event. Being there was able to bring in a lot of people. Again, to show the tractors, if you will, that this means something to us. We're not running away. And it was, like I said, it was just it was an awesome event to see that many people there and that many people involved in putting this on. It was great. Anything you want to say about that particular event, George Connerbond?
I hate I missed it.
Yeah.
I have never been to Stone Mountain.
Oh, it's awesome.
But that year the service was the same weekend as our division memorial service,
Mm-hmm.
and I was running for, I believe I was running for office then, and
Possibly. Yeah.
was running for division first term.
Yes. Yes, you were.
Should have been last term. Um,
And I was there when you got
well,
elected.
and you swore me in.
I did.
And that picture's not on the slideshow, Paul.
Well, I did. Well, that's true. I couldn't put everything here. I mean,
Yeah.
I did
We
include
did a time
Mississippi.
difference.
I did include Mississippi.
That would have been a showstopper.
Or Linda said that would have been a showstopper. So,
Yeah, whatever.
well, and my last event I have on my list is one that we're all familiar with, the reinterment of General Forrest. And I could have I didn't need to put a lot of pictures in this because we've seen a lot of pictures with this. That is one of my favorites because it's General Forrest, and I can't tell you how humbled I was to be a part of that ceremony, not to mention being one of his last pallbearers. It was really something. In my article, I wrote an article. If you read your Confederate Veteran November December issue, I wrote an article, kind of a report about the reinterment. And when we come out of the house and went between the 2 blue canopies and made that right turn to head in this direction, and I looked up and I saw all those people there lined behind the ropes, that's when I got a lump in my throat. That's probably the one time I got choked up, is when I saw that and saw everyone in how silent and reverent everyone was when we were walking with the general there. That it really got to me when I saw the people there. But it was an experience, as it was for all of us that were there, that it'll never be duplicated. And I wouldn't want to duplicate that, given what we went through to make this happen. But it was very special to me, like it is with everyone else. And like I said, and I'm looking very forward to a couple of weeks to being there at Columbia to see the video. Well, I've not seen it yet. As far as I know, the GEC, for the most part, has not seen this yet. So this will be something new for us, other than the trailers and the teasers that y'all been showing on the chat. So I'm looking forward to that event and seeing a lot of people. Hopefully, a lot of people that were there doing this on this day will come back for that event, and plus raise some money for the museum as well, or whatever we're raising the money for. I mean, we still have to erect the pedestal and the statue. We do have some money left over from the reinterment that is going to be used for this, but we still have other monies that we have to raise at some point to finish the job itself. So that's what I have as far as going back 26 years in the SCV, and some of our more notable and national events that a lot of our people are not, may not be aware of, especially if you're a new member, and some of the numbers that we've been able to turn out. And in 2005, we had a convention. 2005, we had a convention in Nashville. And I was Chief of Heritage Defense at that time, Chief of Heritage Defense. And I was asked at that time if we could have a rally. I think it might have been Baltimore, Maryland. They was wanting to do it. There's something, whatever was going on at that time. And because they were in Columbia, South Carolina in 2000, and they wanted to do another rally. Well, but the previous year, I was involved in 2 heritage defense rallies. I'm not going to go into detail what they were, but to say the least, they were disappointing as far as people showing up. And this gentleman asked me about doing something in Baltimore like we did in Columbia. And quite frankly, I told him, I said, listen, I would love to do that if we could get the membership to come out and be a part of it. But the experiences I had the year prior, no one showed up. And you can't have an event, schedule an event like that if it's not a priority for people to go. For whatever reason, I mean, we had to fight in South Carolina in 2000. Everybody was stirred up about it, and everybody was wanting to get out there and be, visible as to, that they were supported keeping the flag there, and that was great. But ever since then, for the most part, it's not a priority now. And I'm not pointing my finger at those that do this all the time. I mean, we got some great working people, dedicated, committed people in this organization. But we're 30,000 members. What if we had 30,000 members that was as dedicated as the 1 to 5% that we see doing the work? And no telling what we could accomplish. But, we just had to keep doing what we're doing. That's why, when I went in as Commander-in-Chief, working with Donnie Kennedy and Ron Kennedy with taking back the narrative, that's why this is so important that we do this, because if we don't get out there and take back the narrative and get our voice out there so people can hear it, we can be gone in one generation. Like Chuck said, it speaks worse for us to have a scheduled event and no one show up. It's better not to have the event at all. Just like some of the Sesquicentennial events, our enemies, they knew this period of time. They knew that it was our time to shine. And when you don't have but just a couple of hundred people show up at a national event out of 30,000 members, they know this. And I've spoken on this several times. I mean, many people that's watching here and has heard me before bring up the fact that uh, enemies, they know exactly what we're doing. They read our magazine, whether our members read it or not. They read it. I know one article I wrote when I was commander in chief about parades. Many times we're getting told that we can't march in parades anymore, or at least not with our flags, and it's getting hard to find parades, this kind of stuff to march in. And sometime at that particular time, there was a parade in another division, I won't say which one, that they were invited to march in the parade, but they couldn't get enough people to show up and march. And here we're being kicked out of parades, and here we get invited to one and don't have it. They couldn't get enough people to march. We're shooting ourselves in the foot, which is why we've got to take the initiative. We've got to take back the narrative, uh, and it's got to be more than just a few of us here. Uh, I understand the sentiment when someone says, "Well, I had to go to this ball game, or I had to do this, or I had to do that, or uh, I really need to get out in the woods and find that first deer." Whatever. If that's your priority, fine. Don't complain to us about things not getting done. Uh, and others will say, "Well, I can't be there, but I will be there in spirit." I'm sorry. Many people have heard me say this before. Our enemies cannot see your spirit. So if you're not there, you're not there. And our enemies see a lack of participation. And all that does is embolden them to keep coming after us. That's happened for the past 30 years. Every time we not do something or not support something with as many people as we can, it emboldens our enemies to to come at us that much harder because they think we're going to be it'll be a cakewalk. I can't completely disagree with that on some levels. So, and that's why Donnie and I started the South was right. I mean, not the South. Well, it was right, but the Southern Victory campaign and make Dixie great again, and taking back the narrative and the Confederate Legion to give everyone an opportunity to have their voice heard. And that's all I can say for that. I mean, they've heard me talk over and over about this. It's probably sounding like a broken record, but fine. I don't mind being a broken record. Uh, it's funny. It reminds me of a story I heard about a preacher several years ago. And, he's a new preacher. And he got up and he preached a sermon. And the next Sunday, he got in the pulpit, preached the same sermon. Next Sunday, he preached the same sermon. Finally, after this happened about 4 or 5 times, one of the little ladies there in the congregation asking him, "Preacher, why have you been preaching the same sermon over and over?" He goes, "Well, ma'am, when the congregation starts listening and doing what I said, the Bible says, then I will go to a different sermon." So sometimes we have to keep repeating ourselves until people pay attention and take back the narrative. And you're right, Forrest. We've got to be as committed, if not more, than our enemies. We've got to be, And those that were at the Stephen D. Lee Symposium in February heard me bring that up too. We've got to be more committed than our enemies, because we know for the past 30 years they have been committed, and this is second nature for them. This is their gospel. This is their Bible. This is what they were trained to do, is to eradicate not only everything Southern, but everything in this country. I told the Sons of Union veterans the first time I talked to them in Boston that we got things that we will never agree on. We understand that. When you put them off to the side, you don't touch them. There are some things that we can agree on and work towards. And one of those things is that we have a common enemy, and that common enemy is hell bent on eradicating the moral fabric of this country. We see it every day, and not just in the South, everywhere. And until not only Southerners, but like-minded Americans wake up, we're going to lose it. And like I said, we can lose it in one generation. Look how much look how crazy life has been the past couple of years. So anyway, anybody, I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments. Connor, I don't know if you got something you want to like to add. I know we've been on almost an hour, so.
Well, I was just going to say, to the guys out there, and going back to kind of your analogy about preaching to the choir, at least that's what I always say when I get on the soapbox. Carl Jones says you need to stop apologizing for preaching to the choir, because sometimes there are sinners in the choir and they need to hear the message. You're only and when I got my entered apprenticeship degree in 2012, 85-year-old man in the lodge got up and said, "Son, remember this: whatever you do in life, you're gonna get out of it what you put into it. If you're sitting there as a member of a camp and you want to see your camp do things differently, be the change. If you want to organize an event and get people there, go out there, beat the bushes, go to the other camps in your brigade, within your division, let us know about it, and if it's within driving distance, we'll go and cover it. We can have these great events that we have had in the past. And it's great to look back at them, but we cannot rest simply on our laurels. We have to continue to move forward. If we have to be like sharks, and I said this last year in Vicksburg, if we're not like sharks swimming ahead, then we're going to be like a crab sidestepping, and we can't afford to do that as an organization.
Chuck says, be smarter and use the tools available to us. I made this point back in 2012. I was running for Lieutenant Commander in Chief back then, and I made the analogy. A lot of times our members are looking for national to do everything for them. Of course, I heard this line so many times as Lieutenant Commander and Commander in Chief that, y'all not doing anything. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. But I made the analogy in 2012. I said, national and our headquarters is like preparing a table at supper time. We've got the food, we've got the forks, knives, plates. Everything is set on the table, ready for you to come and eat. But you've got to get up out of that easy chair, come to the table, sit down, and pick up that fork. We're not going to feed you. It's ready for you, but you've got to come to the table and take advantage of the utensils. The same way with the SCV. We've got all kind of tools available for our membership, but we're not going to do it for you. And even if we could, we're not, because that doesn't get us anywhere. You've got to be able to take care of yourself. You got to be able to have the initiative from what we make available to you and the tools available to you to take those tools and make them work for you. It's not any difficult than that. Just like the old TV commercial. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's something else that I wish people would stop doing, because if you Chad heads hadn't figured it out, I've been hanging around national with national officers since 2013. There is no one size fits all, slap a band-aid on it, easy peasy solution. There's
There's no
not.
magic
What
pill.
There is no magic pill. What will work in Mississippi is not going to work in Caddo Parish. What will work in Caddo Parish is not going to work in New Jersey. What will work in New Jersey is not going to work in Maryland or Virginia or anywhere else. You have to get out there, use the tools, figure out the way to win in your community, strengthen your community, then work on the community next to you. Just like it says in Acts 1:8 in the Great Commission, focus on Judea, focus on or Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and then all the ends of the earth. Fix your problems at home. You fix your problems in your own community. Get yourself safe, and then start moving out and moving out and moving out. That's all it is.
Yep. Yep. And I still get, of course, I get phone calls and people asking for advice, and that's fine. I mean, that's what we're here for, and you as a division commander, I'm sure you get the same thing. But, and I have people ask me questions, and that's fine. As long as people are asking questions, that means you're thinking and wanting to do something, wanting to know something, and that's fine.
Right.
Don't stop. Don't stop thinking. Don't stop planning. Don't stop doing. You got to be active. And some of the younger folks, y'all got to, like you, George Connerbond, y'all going to have to pick up the mantle for us old folks when we can't pick it up anymore.
Hey, I'm trying.
I understand. You're doing a good job. So anyway, get involved. Exactly.
Get involved and get involved in more than one project. I've got one member of my division who I don't hear from him unless it's right before April and he's asking about a poster. Anything else that goes on, I don't hear from him.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, that's something else. Just get out there, get involved, find something, volunteer to chair a committee, whatever you got to do.
Exactly. Get involved, and that goes for the new members and camp commanders, division commanders. Commanders. You got new people in your division, in your brigade, in your camp. Get them involved. If they don't want to do anything, they don't have time to do anything, that's one thing. But don't assume they can't or won't or be able to do anything. Go to them and ask them. Some people are waiting to be asked. I know several people that they would be willing to do something, but no one has ever asked them to be a part of something or do this or do that. Ask them. The most they're going to say is, no, I can't. So everyone's got some kind of a talent. And it's just a good commander will find that out and be able to use the talent that's under him. Just do it.
And if you fail, because there will be things that fail,
Mm-hmm.
don't give up.
Go something else.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't doing too hot there, at least in the Western Theater after Shiloh in 1862, but we kept on.
Yep.
After Vicksburg fell, Port Hudson fell, we kept on. Our ancestors kept on, despite, things looking bleak. Continued to fight.
Yeah, because look what happened in 1864 at Pleasant Hill and Mansfield. We kicked their butt.
Yeah.
And that was 1864. So yeah, don't ever give up.
No.
Don't give up. Don't quit. That's one of the things that just frustrates me to no end is people that will complain and get frustrated and say, I quit. You don't get anything accomplished by quitting. I mean, that never solved anything. Of course, some of the people say that just want to be talked back into staying, but don't get frustrated and quit. That doesn't do anyone any good. Not us, not you. Because you'll just be miserable.
You just hit one of my former members right on the. He's a member at National at Large right now, but you hit him right on the head with being talked into staying thing. I mean, that was just and one I was thinking about. He approached me right after I was elected and said, "All right, I want to do something, in your administration. Let me do something." I said, "Okay, fine. Go find me some land that I could put up a monument on." 2 weeks later, he called me and says, "I can't find any land. I quit."
That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't.
Really doesn't.
Now, I'm gonna make a confession here. I will talk to someone to a point to get them to stay in the organization, to get motivated and do something. But I will talk to them to a point, not to quit or not to leave. To a point. I'm not going to beg anyone to stay, because even if they do, after you beg, what's going to happen next? And they're going to say, "Well, I'm going to quit." At some point, we have to be responsible for our actions and how we act and what we do and say. And, if the only way you're going to stay is I keep begging you to stay, then what good are you going to be?
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes it needs to be tough love.
Yes.
I mean, if somebody just wants to be coddled and everything like that, and they're used to, they hear it 3 times, and then finally, well, I'm just gonna quit. Okay, bye. It makes him think, have I really done something enough to where he's not? Maybe it's me in this. Maybe I'm the common denominator in this math equation and messed up.
No, we have people like that, and it's unfortunate, but we do. We're like any other organization in this country and wherever. You've got people that they want to be coddled. I get it. Uh, I will do that to a point, but we're grown men, hopefully responsible men, and we should be the ones to help everyone else that really needs help, and not just to coddle someone because they got thin skin. And believe me, I've dealt with thin skinned people and people that wear their feelings on their sleeve. I get it. We're a very diverse organization. We have different people, but that doesn't it just doesn't help anyone if you have to constantly deal with that mindset. Like I said, we're grown men. Let's get to the business of taking our country back, taking our heritage back, and keeping the powers to be that needs to be voted out of office, like Ron Kennedy said, and just do what we need to do. We know what we need to do. Let's do it.
I agree completely. Well, I think it's time for me to go and pick up Panda Express. I don't think Mother cooked me any supper tonight, so I think we're about to call it here. I appreciate you coming on, Paul.
Call Panda Express and just do it.
I am. That's what I'm being led to do. Anyway, everybody, tune back in Monday. Monday is our Hearth and Home episode where we'll have Executive Director Adam Southern on. He's going to talk about some of the changes that have come, or not changes, updates, excuse me, that have come with the pilgrimage at Springs, as well as highlighting several items that we have at the museum. It'll be a fun episode. It'll be an informative episode. We try to balance education, informality, and entertainment at somewhat of a level here on the SCV chat. Next Thursday, I have no idea what the boys are planning. I won't be on though. I'll got that evil 4-letter word, but anyway, y'all definitely tune in for Moose and Candyman, as they say on here. Remember, stay Southern, and we'll see y'all later.
Adios.